I think we're live, Josh.
All right, we're live.
We are live. How are you
How
doing
do you
today?
look? I'm great. I'm great. It's been a long day, but I got my run in today. Had a little 90-minute workout. Did a little speed work to get ready for a couple of races coming up. But yeah, feeling good. Ready to unwind.
Well, good. Well, thank you for joining us so late in the evening. I know it's hard to get on and talk about these really vulnerable things at the end of our day. So, Josh, just I want to let you introduce yourself. We've met before on a podcast with Brian and I in the Buckle Up podcast, and then we met in person at Across the Years, where you ran a lot of miles. I don't know that you were planning to run that much, so I want to hear about that experience, but then
Yeah.
also a little bit about just who you are and how we met and your journey in running. So why don't you start with just who is Josh Coleman and kind of why are we here tonight talking about
Yeah.
moving our bodies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Josh Coleman, and originally from Kansas City, lived in New York for 8 years, and then lived in Florida for about 4 years. And then now I live out of my RV van, and I'll get into why here in a second. But currently, I'm in Arizona. I'm actually in Tempe. I'm actually right outside the Tempe segment. Been hanging out with my friends here, getting some segments in. Not so much to win it, but just to be more about the community, which is really important to me. And then, yeah, just a little bit about my background as far as my running, and then we'll get into some of the reasons why we're talking tonight. I started off, kind of like any kid. I loved to run. I played a lot of soccer. I was kind of a high energy kid, so I always went out and baseball was a little boring for me. So my mom always threw me in soccer because I had so much energy. And then when I was like in junior high, I ran the mile and I won. And so I was like, because I was never fast like my other friends that ran like the 40-yard dash. And so then when I got into middle school, I ran cross country and track. I ran the mile and cross country doing the 3.1. And I was like, okay, I wasn't great. I was probably more mid pack. There was always kids that were faster than me. And then after that, I did a little bit in high school, but then just never, became really part of my life until really my 30s. I'd gotten married when I was 28 years old, and a lot of people talk about putting on the freshman 15. I think I put on the married 20, and I was a little disgusted with myself. So I started running, getting back into running. I think my metabolism finally started catching up with me. And started, just kind of doing treadmill stuff, little light runs around the neighborhood. And then eventually in my early 30s, I had a friend of mine asked if I wanted to run a marathon. I said, sure, why not? Let's do it. Not have any idea what I was doing. And this was in Lawrence, Kansas. We were originally from the Kansas City area. And so I ran that and ran in like 3 hours and 55 minutes, which that was pretty good. I know a lot of people in their first ones, they always try to shoot for around 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours. So I was under 4 hours. And then I decided like, oh, I'm going to try to qualify for Boston. So I decided to sign up and do the Kansas City Marathon, and then failed miserably. I think I was supposed to run like a 3:10 or something like that at my age. And I got about halfway and I had to start walking. I didn't have really any good training. I just thought I knew what I was doing, and no coach. Didn't even really have like a smartwatch back then. It's back when you had to like map out your runs on like Map My Run. This is like 2000, I think like 2009, 2010. So then I was just on and off. I did a lot of like 4 milers in the Kansas City area. And then my wife and I at the time decided to move to New York. And same thing when I got there, it was tough. I was working for a digital marketing agency, and it was like pretty cutthroat. And so one of the things I had to start doing for my own mental health was to start running. And I joined a run group called Harlem Run Group. And on a Monday night, there would be anywhere from 70 to 80 people running through the streets of Harlem. It was really cool. And that kind of really encouraged me. And so I decided, so this is at this point, we're around 2016, 2017. And so going into 2018, I decided like, all right, I want to qualify for Boston. It's always been on my bucket list. I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to put in all hard work. So I did. I ended up running the the New Jersey Marathon down on the shore, and I think at that time I had to run a 3:15, and so I ended up running a 3:09. I qualified, I got in, and then I ran Boston the following year in 2019, but ended up having a foot injury and had to really slow down towards the end, but I was able to finish it in like 3 hours and 46 minutes or something like that. So I wasn't super happy with my time, but I was happy that I got it done. And so, which I always encourage people, even when it's not your day, do everything you can to keep going. So yeah, and then so that kind of led into COVID, and then you know, I, even at that point, so after in 2019, after Boston, I kind of took some time off and regroup. And then when 2020 came around, and then COVID hit really hard, obviously in New York, and we were actually living in New Jersey at the time. So all I could do was just get outside and run. And so I was like, I can't just stay inside and be bottled up again, kind of back to as I was a kid. I can't just like stay inside. Like I got to go do something. So I'd go out and start running. And then yeah, just kept running. There wasn't really any races going on. And then at that time, my wife and I had moved to Florida and did a couple races down there. And then in 2022, unfortunately, she was involved in a car accident on June 11th of 2022, and the result of that car accident led to her passing on June 16th, from brain injuries. So that was, a total gut punch. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. I had, family and stuff around, and my mom just said, "You need to keep doing what you were doing. You need to run." And so I did. A week later, after she passed, I just kept running. I ran every day. I just run like 4 miles, just whatever I could to lace up my shoes, just to expend that energy, let out the grief, cry, talk to her, do all these things. And then that just started leading to a path of getting into trail running. And then I got into trail running down in Florida. Um, and then that fall, I signed up. Well, I was doing trail running, and I decided I wanted to run another marathon and maybe try to requalify for Boston, in honor of her, because she was there with me that whole time. And so I ran Miami. I requalified, but I got cut off from the famous cutoff from the additional minutes that they cut you down from. So I didn't end up getting to run it, but so a week later, this was in January of 23. A friend of mine's like, "Hey, I'm running this, trail 5K or 10K. You want to run it with me?" And this guy that I met, doing trail running, and I was like, "Sure." So I ran it and I won. I was like, "All right, maybe I like this trail thing. Maybe I should do more." And then that just kind of led to a path. I ran a couple of other ones. I ended up running my first ultra in Florida called Sweat, Swat, and Swear. It's a 50K. Ended up getting fourth overall, and yeah, that just kind of spurred to this path of I started like, what else can I run? What else can I do? And I knew I was going to be out in Montana, and so I was looking for races out there in August of 23. Couldn't really find anything, but I had heard about Candace Burt. I think she was doing like 200 consecutive
Mm-hmm.
ultras, and so I was like researching like who she was, and found out, oh, she's got these races. Oh, there's a 40 miler. That's a nice upgrade to, to go from a 50K to a 40 miler. So I ran that. And then this is where like kind of everything really changed for me. So after I ran that race, I decided to volunteer, and I'm volunteering at an aid station because they had the Bigfoot 200 miler. And that just changed everything for me, because I was like spending a couple days with so many people, and just really engulf myself, and then seeing all these incredible runners coming in and seeing how they were getting aid and how they were coming in, and some of them were like losing their minds. A few people actually had to try to like calm down and be like, "You're going to be okay, you can do this." So I was just like really trying to encourage them and just kind of be a positive force. And so yeah, that's that. So I ended up doing it that year, and then I came back the following year and volunteered again, and just met more and more people. And then this has just kind of led down this path to where, like, if I'm not running a race, I love to volunteer for races. And so over the last couple of years, I've just decided to, I left my career, and I decided to dedicate my life to just, doing this full time, not as like a pro runner, but just being involved. And then during that time, I wrote a book called Moving Forward, Running with Grief, and it just came out last November. And so that's been, talking about basically the previous 2.5 years of my life from when Aaron passed, and just everything that happened during that time, and just the impact that the trail running community did for me, and what running did for me. because I needed to find a new identity. My life was hers. She wasn't a runner herself. I mean, I was, but we did everything to support each other. And she was involved in community theater, so I was like her biggest fan there. And then as I was running races, she was my biggest fan. So it was a nice mutual thing. But I had to kind of figure out how to navigate my life after 20 years. Like, okay, what do I do? Which direction do I go? And I just fell in love with ultra running. And so this past year, I ended up running 3 200-mile races. I ran a 50K, and this year I'm going to do at least 5 200-mile races and volunteer at a bunch of races. And yeah, I'll stop there. That's a lot. I know I'm off a lot there, but that's, my story and how it evolved, into running and what the trail running community and just the overall running community did for me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Josh. I think that you're being vulnerable in not just sharing your story, but the book. I am a couple of chapters in, and so I'll be sure to tag it here. Hard to read, but awesome to read, and also like it's this reminder that we all like have our reasons why. But first off, like I know we talked about this in our podcast with Brian, but obviously our thoughts and hearts go out to you with your loss and dealing with that every single day and the grief. And this community that's watching tonight, specifically, we're talking about Move Through the Darkness and how do we get through these hard things that life gives us that we don't choose, right? Like,
Yeah.
if someone would have told you, do you want to choose to lose the love of your life, who in your book is so beautiful. Like those first few chapters, like reading those was so magical, and learning about like everything you gave to each other and learning about new pieces of art and what you both valued in this life and world. No one ever chooses that heart, that in an instant that can just be taken away from you. But what do we do next? Like, what are those next steps, and how can movement, and more importantly than movement, probably what this challenge is about? Like, we're not asking anyone to go out and race their fastest 5K or take on ultra or run 100, but we're asking them to like find movement and identity, and more importantly, community. So really just wanted to like understand, when you said it was impactful, you said something before, like, sure, you can go out and run all these races by yourself, but you can also go out and like just immerse yourself in the community and support and volunteer and cheer. And we got to experience that together and across the years, because like, that race is a lot like these backyard ultra races that we run where we're just running in circles, but you just get to like hang out with people. So talk a little bit about what that was like for you, and like the healing journey of finding running and ultra and healing that space for you after the loss of Aaron.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, it was like the only thing I knew what to do, when you feel this burden on you, this heavy feeling of grief, I mean, obviously you have to set in it, and, it's really heavy. It stings really bad, but I needed something to, when you're grieving, you need an outlet, and I think counseling is great. Anybody that's going through anything, I think all those things are very important, but you need a community of people. Family's great. I have a wonderful family, but most of my family, aren't runners, and other than my brother. And so, I needed to find my new identity. And like I said, I just gravitated towards this running community, because especially with these ultras and like across the years that you're talking about, like you don't just spend a couple of hours with people, like you spend days with people and really get to know people. And I think one of the things that really helped was I've always been open and vulnerable to share my story with people. And when I've done that, people have turned and shared their stories. And a lot of times they're like, oh, mine's not as bad as in it. And like I always say, well, that doesn't matter. We all have a story. We all go through trauma. We all go through hard times. We all go through these darkness, and it was definitely a very dark time in my life, but I had to make a choice, and we all have to make a choice. I always say, you can be a victim or a victor, and you can decide like which path you want to go. And it's not always the easiest path, but you got to decide. But I'm always still careful, like do it in your timing. Don't ever let anybody tell you to grieve or, get over something or trauma, but you do need to pick up something else to kind of fill that void, to fill that darkness. Because I think, unfortunately, a lot of times when we bottle those things in, they can lead to other things. And I think a lot of times with mental health, a lot of people bottle things in, they don't talk about it. And I'm not saying you have to be open like me and share with everyone and share my story or write a book about it. But you do need some close people, and maybe those are the running people in your community, to share what's going on in your life, because that'll help lift that burden, because that burden is heavy. And that's why we come together as humans, is because we need to support one another. And I've got so much support throughout this community, and other runners and like yourself. And and I love when I can share life. And if this book can help one person, that's all that matters to me. And ultimately, I wrote this book because I wanted people to know who Aaron was, but I also wanted to show like what running did for me as well. That this was the path I had to take to move through this darkness, because it was. And there's times it's lonely. It's still lonely at times, but I know where I can go. I just need to find a race, go find a race, or just show up and volunteer. Like I mentioned, I'm here in Tempe, just hanging out with the segment with some of my friends that are running the segments. And then last weekend I went out to Coldwater Rumble, that's here in the Phoenix area, and was hanging out there. And then across the years, as you mentioned, I actually didn't sign up for any races. I just showed up, and then I actually ended up pacing Andy Glaze his last 50K, and it was unbelievable because him and we've known each other a little bit, and we've gotten to talk a little bit, but we had never spent like 5 or 6 hours together just sharing life. And so he's had some trauma in his life as well, and as being a firefighter, and he's lost his stepfather and his own father, in the last few years. And so, we were able to share some of that grief. And so I think that's what a lot of this does. It just is able, when you're going through through something, you're able to build these bonds with people and trust, because we all go through stuff, and life is hard. It's chaotic, but I always try to find, and I write about this in the book, about trying to find those silver linings, even when it was, things were hard, or it doesn't make sense, like what can you learn from it? And I just try to learn from this experience, like what can I do with my life, and how can I move it forward in a positive direction and impact people the best way I know possible.
Yeah, and I think we were talking. I think before we got on this call, we talked about how we're both drained about the audiobook part of this book, which is draining.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine that. We're like, and I had a like word vomit of what that's going to look like. And 2 hours later, I was like, I'm so drained, and like, ugh, like that is so to unload. And I think we just have to talk more about that. Okay, that like this is hard, and we go through hard things, but like in the gems in this hard, like hard rocks that we have to carve through in everyday life, and gems and sparkling diamonds, but we have to be there and dig through that hard in the right spaces. The hard in the wrong space, that we don't have community, and or we can support other people. I think the place that you are hard. A lot of us that are watching this tonight, it's the same. Like, show up to the race, show up and have fun. And I know that he's watching. That's incredibly inspiring. You guys remind me a lot of each other. Same person. He goes by very much the same. Like, he will just show up and be like, I don't even have to support and pace and encourage and be a cheerleader. Yep. It's just been so incredible to meet other, like, if you just world, you'll learn so many stories and be weird. And we don't get that with like our last all the time, because it's out of those journeys, but it's the experience. Choose to hang out with people for like a full weekend, or in our case 6 days. Like, you really to learn about each other. And Josh, it sounds like maybe it was for you, but for me too. Like, it has been, it's his big race. We took our 2 kids and we went and did this across the years thing where we went down a lot of a baseball stadium.
Yep.
Same. Like, no concession, there's no food, there's no drinks, there's like bare minimum everything. And that's what, and you've pages running. And I think at some point,
Yep.
like to your point of supporting, you came up to me one time. You were like, "Can I help you with anything?" And I was like, "Actually, yes, I really need out of water. Like I was out of water to fill Nick's
Yeah.
water for our campsite and bring up the jug of water." And you did. Like you muscled up a giant
Yep.
jug of water, like each other. Like it's absurd,
Yeah.
obnoxious request, but like in that, like bonds form, and you can never undo that. It's just
Yeah.
going on, but it's cool. I'm grateful to experience
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's give and take. I feel like the more I can give, because I'm one of those people. It's hard for me to ask for help sometimes, but I know when I need it, like I need to ask for it. But I always just try to give back as much as I can in this community. Like tonight, I brought everybody. I brought some of the people pizza. They were tired of all the stuff around here, so I went and got pizzas for everyone. And that's what it's about. Like I just want to support my friends, and they've inspired me, and I want to do everything I can. And so yeah, if it's lugging a big jug of water, then whatever it takes. Like I don't care. Like I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the body God gave me, and so like I have to be able to use it. And but yeah, I mean, there's times like yeah, not everybody can do this all the time, and I get that. But like when you can jump in, like I always tell people, like just go volunteer at a 200-mile race or like a 6-day event or something like that. It will change your life. Like it will change your perspective on people, on just everything in your life. And so that's where I think that's just where life happens. And I think you said it well. When you bring your kids and there's like no concessions or no, like they have to figure it out on their own. I mean, that's what we did as kids. Like we didn't have it, we didn't get everything we wanted, so we had to go make our own fun. And so I saw some of the kids out there, they're playing baseball on the diamond, and then they're running around doing this. But I think it's encouraging to see them see what their parents are doing, and that you're involving them in your life and showing them. And so hopefully that will lead to them doing hard things, like, wow, my dad did this, my mom did this. And then, I was thinking about Stephanie, Sawyer, he's running the 6 hour. And I was so encouraged by that, that this kid is like deciding like, hey, I'm going to try this thing. And so, and maybe it's not going to be for them, for all of them, but at least maybe they'll try. And again, it's just so neat. I heard stories about your kids and their kids, and I just think that's so cool. And hopefully they'll be lifelong friends now, even though they live in different states, and they'll see each other at races. And that's what community is all about.
For sure. And I think it's meeting you guys out there too. Like that, it keeps them coming back because it's when it's just
Yeah.
their parents, but when they get to meet other people,
Yeah.
is Tim going? Is Flora going? Like they're remembering names of not kids. They're remembering names of like grown-ups, of athletes. Who's gonna there? We want to go and cheer them on and be supportive of them. So in my mind, I think that that's just such a big part of it. I think, as part of you going through this process, like you growing through the grieving process of losing Aaron into this, but I would imagine it's a lot of that community piece that's built in these other areas of like choosing the hard and being there for other people that helps you go through that. So yeah, I just kind of want to hear a little bit more about like how this has transformed you and how you encourage others to think outside the box in that grieving process, whether you've lost someone or you're just choosing something different.
Yeah. For me, like, so we didn't have children. So it was each other is all we had, I mean, obviously outside of family, and we both have great families, and I still talk to her family, and we'll always be family for life. But it's just like when it's like half of you is like taken away, and I felt that pain for months, where I just like I had to find this new identity. And it's like, well, what am I good at? And so I'm good with people, I'm good with talking, I'm good at running. So like, why don't I figure out how to incorporate that into my life and do something I'm passionate about? And so that's what decided to do. And because I needed that strength, there's times where, yeah, it's lonely out there. And so the more I can get involved, and, obviously you need your downtime. I'm an extrovert, but I still have to have my, we all need our rest. And so I know when my body's like overdoing it or doing too much, I like need to take a step back. But I get pumped. And so like I love encouraging people. I want everybody to cross the finish line. I don't care what pace you run at. I don't care where you come from. I want you to finish the finish line, because those things will change your life too. First, if you're getting involved, sign up and work in an aid station. And then two, like, yeah, decide what race you want to do or build up to a race. I know you mentioned, you do some smaller races that end up leading to bigger races, because it's just like, I will admit, like, it does snowball. Like, once you start doing the bigger stuff, you're like, oh, I can do that too. And, yeah, it's all just about choosing the path. And, grief is, there's times that, I'll just be quite honest, it sucks and it stinks, but you have to find your identity and you have to decide how you're going to move forward with it. Because I truly believe like grief doesn't like ever truly go away. Like, I believe this grief of Aaron will always be with me, but it's not like it's always this heavy burden. There's times, yeah, it's still, even 3.5 years later, it's still heavy days, especially if we were talking earlier, reading this book and reading it out loud again. But I know that like this is the path forward. Like, I had to decide, like, this is how I'm going to move, and this is how I'm going to, help try to encourage other people that like it's okay. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. But at some point, you got to decide like how you're going to move forward with this grief, because it's not going to go away. Like, there's not a fix to grief. There's no fix. Like, yeah, there's encouraging words, but a lot of times you just have to sit in it. And then I always encourage other people, if somebody's going through grief, sometimes there's no magic words. Don't feel like you have to fix anything other than just sit with them. I tell people all the time, just be present. Just show up at their house, offer something, a meal, or take them out. And like, if they want to talk about it, great, be ready. But if not, that's okay. And even even when it feels painfully awkward, that's okay. That's just part of life. That's the chaos, because their world has been disrupted. I mean, it's blown up. And so, they're going to have to figure out how to, pick up the pieces and move forward with them. But the best thing we can do with people that are grieving is just be present, be with them, and don't try to fix anything, because you don't fix grief. It's the fabric of our lives.
That being present for people, I think that's so huge. Like, you're not going to fix it. We're not going to heal it. Just be there.
Yep.
And I think that's what's the cool common thread even if you don't know how to show up for someone, like, even if you that's going through anything right now, but I just want to be part of making humanity better and show up. Like, show up to an aid station and try to meet someone when they're 150 miles into a race. Be remembered forever, even if you know nothing about running, nutrition, food care, whatever. If you are a kind aid times, and I'm like, names and phone numbers of the people that were there that were just a hug.
Yeah.
And it's almost like having like your grandma in the aid station with you, who's just like, oh honey, sitting with your grandma, and you're like, that's not my grandma, but it feels like grandma. Just to continue that circle of life of kindness, heal each other through more of that. That's what you've embodied so much with what you're doing and showing up for races, pacing others, volunteering. Your book is amazing. So yeah, tell me about, like, what's in the audiobook soon?
Yeah. So the audiobook, I'm recording it right now. It should be out hopefully by May or June is what my publisher's telling me. As long as I get the recordings done by the end of February. But currently you can get the paperback and the Kindle version on Amazon. You can search it, moving forward, running with grief, or I'm sure you'll link also like my Instagram. There's links in there as well. So Josh Run Adventures. I've got a link tree in there. and I think I got an additional link that just goes straight to the Amazon page. So yeah, you can get it there. I really appreciate the support. Maybe you're buying it for someone else that's going through something. Like I said, it is a book about grief, but I think this book will also apply for people that are going through any kind of trauma, and hopefully they can read it and be encouraged, and they can figure out their path forward.
And then before I let you go, we can't get off this call without talking about the burrito segment.
Yeah.
How are the burrito segments going for you? Where are you?
Yeah. Well, so I think I'm close to only 200 segments. Like I said, I didn't come out here to try to win it. But like, there's definitely a battle. There's definitely a battle on the women's side. The men's side, there's a battle more for second and third, because unfortunately, if you came out to the Tempe one, Troy Croxdale, who goes by Hike with Punisher, is like 250 miles ahead of the second place person, but he just got done doing 10,000 miles. Yeah, he just got done doing well, and he did across the years. He did like 300 miles or whatever he did. But most people, if you don't know who he is, he did 10,000 miles plus last year, and a lot of that was hiking the 3 major trails in the U.S.: the Appalachia, the Continental Divide, and the Pacific Crest Trail. And so he's already weathered for this. So there's definitely some bodies that are battling out here. But yeah, I'm just out here more for the community. I actually go off some days and just go do my own runs. I'm trying to stick to my plan. I got a little carried away the first week I was here, and probably did more miles than I needed to. But again, just here. But if it is just like a light day for me, I will come out here and do my run here on the segments or do some walking. So it is a lot of fun. And so, yeah, go Burrito League.
Go Burrito League. I know. So Brian's probably going to watch this if he's not already. So
Yeah.
Brian has his opinions about me spending too much time on Burrito League segments because like you and I are both training for Cocodona. And so Brian is like, I don't know league all the time. I need you like running your sun and your hills, but there's something so addicting about the challenge. In Windsor. So actually, like, I'm cool because I can't win because I'm the host.
Right. Yep.
I'm technically.
Yeah, but it's just so fun to get out there.
Like the organizer. Yeah, Instagram, and you guys haven't heard me talk about this yet. The people that are running up Main Street or in any town, up and down your Main Street, and you're like, why are these people running up a 2-block segment?
Yeah,
we're competing for gift cards. We have so many sponsors behind these. So I had to see such a cool community movement, and even the small amount of miles I've spent out there with my friends and our runners, you hear conversations that would have never had happened had we said, go and spend running together or walking together. The piece that's happening right now that, I don't know, it's just cool.
Yeah, a couple things on that. So I think next year it's going to get even bigger. I think it'll get announced. So I think it'll be a good way for people to go right into the new year, especially if you have new goals. Going into January, getting the year started off right. And so, I think a lot more people will probably prepare for that. But I think there's a lot of coaches that are very upset with Burrito League right now because they're like, why are you doing this much? Why aren't you doing your speed work and running on trails and things like that? So, it's been kind of funny to watch. But so Jamil's here, at the Tempe one quite a bit. And so, because this is the one he started. And I told him, I was like, a marriage is going to come out of Burrito League, right?
Oh.
And he's like, yeah, it probably will. So, I think we're going to hear about couples that will be meeting at Burrito League. And then a couple of years later, they're going to be like, so where did you guys meet? Oh, we were doing this silly thing called the Burrito League. So I'm calling it right now that there's going to be at least one marriage that comes out of Burrito League, because it is about like these communities coming together. And I think next year too, I think it'll just lead to more people coming out, and I think it'll spur off other run groups potentially as well for communities. I know we heard from a few communities that didn't have like any really run group. They just set up a segment and people started showing up. And so, yeah, I just think it's extraordinary. And yeah, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Burrito marriages coming up next.
Yeah, there you go. Burrito babies. You called it. I love it. I love it.
Good. Hey, Josh, thank you for thanks for being vulnerable. I know you have a lot right now recorded. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So sending you my love and grace as you're going through that.
Yeah.
Retelling our stories
Thank you.
is so hard. Like it's so hard mentally, emotionally, physically. So please give yourself that grace as you're going through that. We will tag your book here in your link tree. Our runners to follow along with you, but all we can do is just keep being kind, showing up for each other, and being a bright light, moving through the darkness with movement and running with us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Keep moving forward. And yeah. And if anybody, feel free to message me or DM me if you have any questions or anything that I can help with, on the grieving side. My DMs are always open. So feel free to reach out to me, anybody listening. So, and yeah, thank you so much, Mandy. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, let's keep moving through the darkness, and let's hold each other accountable, and let's keep moving forward.
Let's do it. Thanks, friend. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.